Hi friends, Libby Ramache, your Erie Realtor, coming to you today with our Real Estate Real Talk. So today's topic is going to cover disclosure and why that should be important to you as both a seller and a buyer. And we're going to go over some things that you need to be aware of, important information regarding disclosure. All right, so let's get into it. In the state of Pennsylvania, if you are a homeowner and you are intending to sell your property, you are legally required to fill out a seller's property disclosure statement. Now, there are a couple of situations that warrant that unnecessary. We're not going to get into that. I would say about 98% of all real estate situations are going to require you as the homeowner to fill out a seller's disclosure. And I may have a cat coming in the video here in a second, so don't mind her. She's traipsing around me here. All right, back on track. Now, it is a questionnaire. I think it's 11 pages. I don't think it's quite 12 pages, but it is there are questions on there that are specific to your individual property, and you have a legal obligation to not only fill it out, but to be as honest, as transparent, and forthcoming with the information as you know. Now, while we're on that topic, if you did not build the home, if the home is a little bit older, we understand that you may not know everything about the property, or there may be things that may have happened to it previously that you haven't specifically experienced. So you do want to answer that questionnaire as honestly as you know, and especially mostly things that have happened during your ownership. Usually when I'm meeting with clients, I tell them that just certain information that they may be able to recycle from a previous owner would be specific ages on things. If you have any specific information, hey, I replaced the furnace in 2010, or the roof was put on in 2015. That's appropriate information that I think people need to have, but otherwise we want to disclose based off of what we've experienced in that home. Okay, so sellers recap, you have a legal obligation to fill that out, and that document does need to be made available to buyers who are interested in purchasing your property. Okay, so we're pivoting gears here to the buyer side. Why is a seller disclosure important to you as a buyer? It's important because you as a buyer are expected and should know how to make an informed, reasonable decision and choice when you're deciding to put an offer on a property. That seller's disclosure statement, and although maybe that shouldn't necessarily be taken as the end-all be-all for the property, it should give you a good jumping off point to know information about the house and what's going on with it. That information that you get off of that disclosure should help you structure your offer in the way that you want to, i.e., do I need to elect inspections or not? Is there anything that may warrant further investigating that's going on with this property? Now, another important takeaway for everyone here is disclosure does not just pertain to the seller's property disclosure form. Remember that 12-page agreement I just told you about. Okay, disclosure can cover any manner of things. A big one is municipal mandates, okay? And this happens more frequently than you think it does. Sometimes in the municipality in which you live and reside and pay taxes, sometimes that municipality makes decisions that can cause property owners to have to spend money on something, okay? So a good couple of examples that I'm gonna bring that come to mind. One, if you live in an area that has sidewalks, oftentimes those sidewalks are homeowners' responsibility. Usually around this time of year, they send their taggers out to go spray paint the blocks, where they plan on sending you a letter that says, hey, I am from such and such borough, and we want you to replace X, Y, and Z sidewalk panels, okay? That comes out as an official notice in a form, lets a property owner know that they are expected to replace that within a given time period. Okay, another huge example that unfortunately I've seen way too much of, and I've had to deal with way too many situations based off of this, is when a seller fails to disclose that their property, which is currently either on well, septic, or both, is now switching over to public utilities. Okay, this is a big one. Sellers, don't try to hide this from buyers. It is definitely disclosable information. If there is anything published, anything on the municipal website, anything that a reasonable person could walk into and get information on, all of that needs to be disclosed, okay? And why it's important that you do that, because you need that protection as a seller, okay? A buyer has the right to go after you from a legal standpoint if you fail to disclose something. Now that's going to cover that questionnaire. That's going to cover any municipal mandates. Okay, you need to be as honest as possible about what's going on so you do not open yourself up to potential future litigation in the event a buyer becomes worse off financially because of something that you did not disclose. Okay, so that also does cover things that come up, questions on your seller's disclosure statement. If you say, hey, I don't have a problem with my roof, but 3 months ago you had a roof leak, and you called a roofing company and you got a quote, but you never did anything for it, that is established a service order, okay, with an address on it, okay? Again, something like that would open you up to liability. We don't want that to happen, okay? So as a general rule of thumb, and a rule that I try to abide by myself, just put good out there. Good's going to come back to you. Be honest. Don't let a buyer potentially walk into a situation not full well knowing what they're getting into. Okay, it could potentially cause you problems later on. Buyers, you do need to review any and all sellers' disclosure statements that are available prior to submitting an offer. Okay, there's literally a line that you need to initial on page 14 of the contract that says, I, the buyer, have seen a copy of the seller's property disclosure statement. Okay, be an informed buyer, make smart decisions. Sellers, disclose everything that you have knowledge of. Okay, it's better for you to disclose this going in rather than unearthing the problem in the middle of the transaction. Please trust me when I say that. It's always better to know what's going on than what's not going on. All right, guys, I hope you enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Have a great last week of school if you have kids out there in school this week. All right, guys, take care.